Imagine two countries that gained independence around the same time, with similar challenges: no resources, colonial scars, and desperate poverty. One becomes one of the fastest growing economies on Earth. The other slides into stagnation, inequality, and repeated crises. Why? That's the question Greg Mills tackles in his 2023 book, Rich State, Poor State: Why Some Countries Succeed and Others Fail. Mills, a South African strategist who has worked on the ground across Africa, Latin America, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, spent years interviewing presidents, prime ministers, and officials. His answer is clear and unflinching. Success isn't about luck, geography, resources, or even foreign aid. It's about leadership choices, smart policies, and the will to carry them out. Poverty, he argues, is largely a choice made by those in power. The book's context is urgent. Africa has changed dramatically in 60 years, but too many nations remain trapped in low growth while their populations explode. By 2050, the continent's population will double. Without reform, Mills warns, we face mass migration, instability, and state failure. Mills draws on global evidence. Botswana rocketed from one of the world's poorest nations at independence to the highest per capita growth rate anywhere. Mauritius turned ethnic diversity and colonial legacies into a diversified success story. The Baltic states emerged from Soviet collapse to become top performers in Europe. Vietnam overcame war and trauma to transform rapidly. Even Mexico stands out as the only large developing economy that genuinely competes with China in manufacturing. Contrast that with South Africa, which had every advantage at the end of apartheid but has underperformed, or the many African states that remain stuck. Mills shows that reformers had no special head start. What separated winners from losers wasn't destiny. It was decisions made by those in power that changed everything.
So what are the patterns Mills identifies? First, good leadership is everything.
Not charisma or slogans, but vision, prioritization, attention to detail, astute diplomacy, and the courage to spend political capital on tough reforms. Successful leaders build efficient institutions and relationships, both inside their countries and with the outside world, that drive growth. They have stamina. They refuse to stay prisoners of the past. Second, economic freedom in the private sector. Winners let markets work. They cut red tape, encourage investment, and stop treating the state as the only engine of growth. Economic freedom isn't ideology, it's practical. Good leaders realize they shouldn't centralize power. They should unleash people to produce and trade. Third, rule of law and strong institutions. Corruption kills progress. Sound legal systems, property rights, and anti-insider politics create trust and attract capital. Mills contrasts this with the political economy of insiders and outsiders that traps so many failing states. Fourth, the building blocks of prosperity: reliable infrastructure, quality education, technology adoption, and smart investment. These aren't isolated fixes, they're interconnected. Good leaders prioritize education because it enables technology. Technology draws investment. Investment funds infrastructure. It all reinforces economic freedom and the rule of law. His answer is clear and unflinching. Success isn't about luck, geography, resources, or even foreign aid. Success comes from consistent, ongoing reforms, explained clearly to citizens so they buy in politically. The technocratic details of reform are relatively easy. The hard part is the leadership and relationships that make those reforms happen. What should you take away as a reader, whether you're a citizen, student, policymaker, or business leader? Lesson 1. Stop blaming history or outsiders. Colonialism was terrible. Geography can be tough, and aid has often failed. But successful nations refuse to be defined by those things. Vietnam didn't. Botswana didn't. You don't have to either. Lesson 2. Demand and deliver better leadership. Leaders must shift from short-term patronage to long-term growth. They must explain reforms honestly, build broad coalitions, and keep delivering results. Citizens must hold them accountable and reject the politics of division and insiders. Lesson 3. Prosperity is a choice. With the right policies, economic openness, rule of law, investment in people, any country can move from poor state to rich state. Mills is optimistic because the evidence is overwhelming. The reformers he studied started with nothing and succeeded through deliberate action. For Africa and South Africa in particular, the message is direct. Political change and sustained reform are essential to meet economic demands. Demographics are not destiny, but they demand urgency. Finally, Mills leaves us with hope. With better choices, the right policies, and the will to implement them, it is entirely possible to travel the road from poverty to prosperity. Rich state, poor state isn't just analysis, it's a playbook. It shows that the gap between rich and poor nations isn't inevitable. It's the result of human decisions. The next generation of leaders, and the citizens who elect them, now have the map. The question is, will we use it, read the book, share its lessons?
And wherever you are, push for the leadership and reforms that turn poor states into rich ones.
because the road from poverty to prosperity is open if we choose to take it. See you on the next video.